Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me today to chat man stuff are Ryan and Maddie. Firstly, gentlemen, how were your weekends?
Good, mate. I got to play some sport this weekend, so I just played hockey this afternoon. Caught up with a friend, went down to St Kilda, had a few beers over the water, and yeah, went out for dinner Friday. So had a bit of a young professional yuppie weekend this one.
Excellent. How did you win hockey?
We did, last game of the season, and I kind of felt bad for the other team, but then they were a bit of a bunch of dicks, so I didn't really feel that bad. But they needed to beat us to make finals, and we had no chance, and we beat them 2-0, so it felt really good because they were taking it a whole lot more seriously than we were.
I was going to say, have you been planning your end of season trip for a month, or is there an end of season trip for social hockey, or just go and have a beer and celebrate the end of the season? Is there a Mad Monday tomorrow?
No Mad Monday, unfortunately. It's only Divi 2, so but there's definitely we'll have an end of season bash, so there'll be a few cheeky beers in there, I'm sure.
Matthew, what about your weekend?
Yeah, so we had a bit of a crazy Friday, but after that was pretty low key. On Friday, the little 10-week-old decided not to eat or drink or sleep and had a bit of a temperature, so he was not well at all. So the wife decided to take him up to the emergency. So he was in there most of the day. Then they admitted him. So got to leave work early, duck up to the hospital, pick up the 3-year-old who was up there as well, making friends with all the nurses. Then back to pick up the 6-year-old from school, back home, cook them dinner, bath, bed. Then back up to the hospital with some supplies for the missus. So after that, Saturday and Sunday were pretty low key. But I did get half an hour on the cubby, so a little bit of progress there, which is nice.
I was going to say, it's always a stress if it's not you going to hospital, because when you're going to hospital or whatever it is, you kind of have some idea on how you feel. When it's not you, it's always stressful, be it a partner or especially a young kid who can't communicate what's wrong with them. So especially being a 10-week-old, that would be pretty stressful at the time.
Yeah. The missus was saying that on yesterday, because I sort of said, as I was driving back from the hospital, I wasn't as stressed as I thought I might be with so much going on. But she was saying, look, all day Friday, just not knowing what was wrong with him, trying to feed him, no response there. It was just, sort of freaking her out a little bit. So you're right, if they can't communicate, it's, quite scary not knowing what's going on. But he's turned a corner again, so he's feeding and he's happy little self today. So it's back to normal, which is nice.
Well, we had the 3-year-old last week on the back of, or almost 3, on the back of splitting his lip last month and needing plastic surgery across it. Just slipped on a bit of paper in the kitchen that he'd put down like 5 seconds beforehand. Like, so he didn't have a chance to pick it up. He slipped on that and hit the bridge of his nose on the edge of the microwave, and it was almost immediate blood from both nostrils. I'm like, we're almost back up to the hospital again twice in sort of a month for sort of just injuries which are just around the house. Nothing sort of you can't prevent them. They're just little accidents, and all of a sudden, like a split lip 1 month, and then we thought we were going to be going to the hospital. But that does lead on to what I wanted to discuss tonight, which was how we as gentlemen or men or males or whatever we are, de-stress. Some of the things we do to unwind at the end of the week, during the week, at the end of a hard day. What do you guys get up to unwind? I know, Ryan, we've discussed yoga previously. Is there anything else that you like to do to kind of kick back and get rid of all the stresses of a workday?
Yeah, I don't know if yoga's a de-stress for me, because I'm extremely inflexible and it's kind of a necessary evil for sport that I do play. But sport's definitely a huge thing for me. So usually it's hockey on the weekends, indoor cricket throughout the week. Run a couple of times, gym a couple of times, do the Spartan races, so they're coming up in November. So, running's a huge de-stressor that I kind of go to. And I did my ankle a little while ago, which meant I couldn't run for about 6 or 7 weeks. And TK was definitely like, yeah, you're a bit of a shit when you can't run. In terms of needing to de-stress, especially work's pretty long. I certainly do enjoy a cheeky beer or two and a good night out. Like on a big level, ideas like holidays and travels and stuff like that. We'll try and do some staycations a couple of times a year with some pretty solid work schedules. Travel would be another thing, and I'm just absolutely insane with to-do lists. So surprisingly, that and regular journaling, and especially running a couple of businesses and sort of with a bit of roles and responsibility, having clear to-do lists and utilizing apps like Trello and then just journaling a couple of times a week. And then I think we've touched on it previously before, the meditation's a big one for this year that I've focused on, that I found works a bit of wonders. So
just on the journaling, what do you actually journal? So you journal a couple of times a week. So if you don't mind sharing, what sort of things you journal in there?
I've tried to make it, especially the last 6 months, a practice of at least twice a week. Sometimes that is just more journaling and getting my head right across the couple of businesses and sort of what we're doing in the work. So it can be as simple as, a page or two, 10 minutes here of just a snapshot of what we're doing at the moment. But more like when I do find it effective is, if I can't sleep, it sits by my bed. So at 2 a.m. I'll, if I am quite stressed, come into the study, pour a nice whiskey and do a bit of journaling. And usually that's around business problems I'm having, challenges I'm having, usually around leadership or that kind of stuff, being quite young and in some of the roles that I'm in, but also family stuff. Like I live on the other side of the country from my family. I got a single mum who is she'll hate me for saying this, but she's turning 50 next month. But she lives in a rental, and we didn't exactly have a bless growing up in terms of, we never missed out as kids and that, but she definitely did it hard, and that and my brother and sister, and just some family stuff that can come up and that. So journaling is kind of good for anything that rears its head, but I have tried to make more of a practice of it, just even if everything's going good. And also I'm using a productivity app that actually has just a quick daily gratification thing. So trying to do, even if everything is going to shit, touch base and see, what can you be grateful for. And it's not hard when you look at, living in Australia and the just the beauty that we have here and how blessed we are compared to a lot of the rest of the world. So, sometimes you just need a bit of a first world problem slap in the face and then go for a good run and finish it with a beer. And then I'm feeling pretty de-stressed.
It's a really good mix of things. So do you find, obviously, writing it down, putting the problem, if it is a problem, on paper or the gratitude on paper helps reinforce the gratitude or outline what the problem you're facing is and maybe help solve it in some way?
No, massively. It was one of the things that years ago when I was going through some mental health stuff that was really sort of pushed on me. And I mean, it works a gem, especially in that scenario when you just can't sleep and it is 2 o'clock in the morning, just to write it down. And usually you don't actually end up coming with a solution, but you just get it out of your head. So you can go back to bed and you can sort of, I don't know whether the subconscious works on it or whatnot, but just putting it on paper as well can usually, because when you get in your head, you can just be way too much in your head. So putting it on paper, you can kind of break it down into some steps and go, okay, what is the real issue? What can I do about it? What can I control? What can't I control? And there's a lot that in instances you can't control, and sometimes you got to let that play out. And sometimes it's just good when it's not swirling around in your head.
How long does it take? Like, is it a set amount of time, or it could vary? Is it like as short as 5 minutes, or it can be much longer? Is there a time frame that you kind of do it around?
Yeah, so today, I mean, annoyingly, we had a 5 p.m. hockey game, which isn't usually what we have on Sundays, but 15 minutes before I needed to leave with the footy on in the background with nothing to do. And I was like, normally it is Sunday late afternoon that I'll do a bit of a piece and do the to-do list for the week and kind of set myself up. So I thought, well, I'll just do it quickly there. And literally it was 10 minutes because things were going pretty well. And I still punched out 2-3 pages and just sort of reset a few things leading into, like, I got a massive week this week. So it kind of helped on that front. But then other times it can literally be 30, 40 minutes. But I wouldn't say it's ever really more than that. And you can do it in as short as 5 minutes. Sometimes it might just be a couple of good things that happened today, a couple of challenges, and then something you're grateful for. Bob's your uncle, you're done.
Yeah, so that's not a huge amount of time for anyone to kind of juggle. I guess it's 5 minutes here, 10 minutes on a day, sort of thing. I think everyone can find 5 or 10 minutes in a day to do something like that. Even juggling 3 kids, Matt, I'd imagine you'd probably have 5 or 10 minutes during the day where you'd be able to de-stress in some format, be it journaling or something else. Is there something which you have as a go-to which kind of helps you on a day-to-day basis?
First off, Ryan, that's very impressive, mate. That all those that variety of options you've got there to de-stress for someone so young, journaling at 2 a.m. and planning out your week. It's fantastic. A few of the things Ryan touched on there, I use as well as de-stresses or sort of escapes. So I do most of my escaping or de-stressing in the nighttime hours when the girls are sort of gone to bed or the wife has too. Whether it's going out for a jog or I might duck off to the movies every 6 months or so by myself and loser. But
there's nothing wrong with going to the movies by yourself. I remember seeing Space Jam by myself, mainly because no one else would see the goddamn thing, with good reason it turned out.
I saw Darkest Hour by myself because no one would come see it either. So I think we're either onto something or we're all a bit loserish.
Another one as well, when the wife sort of goes to bed, I've got a nice window at the moment between 9 and 12, before the young one sort of wakes up for his nighttime feed. So that's when I'll sort of just jump on the computer and, smash out a little bit of work just to sort of, alleviate the load a bit or, catch up on some other emails or things like that or some online shopping and just sort of escape from sort of, the current reality of the 3 kids. It's very hard to kind of do de-stressing or escaping during the day because that means if I sort of disappear for an hour or so, that means the wife's got 3 kids to manage. So whilst it'd be nice to sort of have a bit of the time on a weekend here and there, that caveat in place is sort of restricting.
Yeah, it's much the same here. Like we just trying to grab an hour here, an hour there around when the little fella's asleep. So the time you can kind of do some things. It's a catch-22 for us as well, running a sort of a business together where we're trying to manage that and taking some personal time and work all in the same sort of day and sort of time frame. So I know, Ryan, when we discussed this before, you kind of coined it. I've got a work-life blend. My computer will go on at sort of 6 a.m. in the morning and get turned off at sort of 9:30 at night. In between that time, I might be sitting doing work. I might be playing with the kid. I might be doing something for me. It's a weird sort of hybrid mix of everything at the moment. So actually putting aside a little bit of time within that to have for myself is really important. I do just really, again, odd things which people will find odd. Like I watch wrestling summaries and WWE videos and stuff like that. Like when I say wrestling and people look at me really strangely, it's unusual. But for me, it's like the pantomime and the fun of it. For me, it's an escape for 5 or 10 minutes because it's just a YouTube video. It goes for 5 minutes and then kind of centered for 5 minutes and then get on with work. So you try to split even an hour of work up into sort of 55 minutes of work or 2 lots of 25 and then a 5-minute break at the end of each, just to split up any sort of work-based stuff with just a little sliver of personal time at the end.
Yeah, having a bit of a medical background and that kind of thing, I've looked into this quite a bit. 45 minutes is your sweet spot for every hour of sort of work or just any task that you're doing. But I mean, like you said, I'm a massive fan of thinking of things as a work-life blend, especially in today's world where most people, their phone and social media and emails and notifications, all that do have a big influence on their lives. If you can think of blending some time that will, like what you said, Matt, you'll do a couple of hours, work at night, which will de-stress you a bit for the next day. I do the same, Kane, you do the same type thing. Yeah, if you can kind of blend a little bit rather than going to this balance that everyone talks about, work-life balance, because I kind of get the connotations with that it's saying that you have a 40-hour-a-week job that you hate to have 40 hours a week that you are balanced and enjoy. And that's a really tough one, I think. But, I know there's plenty of people that work jobs that they're not necessarily keen on and I love what I do. But blending it just seems to make things a lot less stressful. Like, I know myself, if I go, I'm definitely not working on a weekend, or I'm not taking calls between this time, or I'm not doing anything like that, that actually increases my stress significantly. But I still haven't mastered the whole then taking the counter side to that, and maybe an hour or two off in the day during the week, and not feeling guilty about it, stepping out of the business, or that kind of thing. And I think guilt's a lot of stuff around this, the stress component as well. And then you go into this vicious cycle where you're like, oh shit, I feel guilty about that, or like I should have done that, and then I get stressed about that, and then you still don't do it, so then you get more stressed, and you don't have things that you know that you can de-stress. Or also, if you don't have people that are around you, like partners or even kids, I think, know when you're stressed, that can kind of tell you, because we're not very aware people. So sometimes I get a nice little, not so gentle, you should probably go for a run comment.
I get that a bit as well, Ryan. And touching on what you just said there about guilt, I mean, that doesn't sort of only, relate to the work side of things as well. It's also home side of things, like the guilt being, you sort of step outside on the weekend and you've got a ton of chores ahead of you that you need to do, but you just come off, the 40-hour work week, and you want a bit of time to sort of de-stress or relax. But that sort of guilt just sort of hangs around. Like, I know sometimes I step outside the backyard and I can see my neighbour on a Sunday sitting in his hammock watching a bit of TV. And I look at him and think, oh man, I wish I could be doing that right now. But then I sort of look around the house and go, bang, lawns, trees are down, all these other things. And the guilt just kicks in, and I go and, get to work on those tasks rather than sort of go and put the feet up for an hour if I can. And then sometimes the guilt sort of leads to stress because you've got all these things to do and you're not spending any time with the kids. And, even if you are with the kids and they're sort of interfering with what you're doing, you might even start, yelling at them a little bit, and that's bang when the wife says, you need to sort of step back, and like she says, you go for a run, she might say to me, go for a walk, or, go do something else. But yeah, guilt's definitely a factor in play there, I think.
Yeah, that balance of just trying to get everything done, like everyone's going a million miles an hour and doing the best they can, and that's all anyone can do is the best they can, and there's always something else which needs to be done, and sometimes that thing can be done tomorrow. Like, you just have to understand that not everything needs to be done right now. I have a list of things to do which I'll get to at some point, and I'm pretty open with the missus about that okay, that's my list of things to do. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. Maybe it might be now, might not be next week, might be the weekend after, but it'll get done. So just trying to just have that mindset of, okay, everything's going to get done, but it doesn't have to be done now. It just helps me kind of get the essential things done, which is making sure there's food in the fridge, and food's cooked for the kid, and one meal in front, which is my rule. They're the things which are really important, and everything else is kind of a bonus. And if you can fit a load of washing around while the kid's in the chair eating dinner, happy days. But if you can't, there's always tomorrow. I do a bit of activity, like I'm much the same. If I don't go for some kind of physical activity during the day, be it a run or a treadmill or something like that, I will be antsy also. So it's just trying to squeeze stuff like that around everything else which everyone does, which is important.
I don't know. I've only been in the workforce for about 6 years or whatnot, but I can't say I really have ever met anybody who goes, except for maybe some real old school government job people, that go, I only do 9 to 5. I think a lot of people just have the busyness of like chaos of life and connectivity, especially travel and all those kind of things that just add to stresses. Having people that can actually identify when you are stressed, I think, is a hugely important piece to managing it and de-stressing, because a lot of the time you just get caught up in your own stuff. But also, like what you said, Kane, at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to sit back and ask yourself, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if I don't send this email today, if I don't finish this report? I mean, the world is not going to end. Armageddon's not going to happen. I think it's really good for us as Australians, and definitely us as people that are quite lucky. And I'm planning on doing this when I do have kids and they do get a bit older, is getting on a plane for a couple of weeks over to somewhere like Indochina. I know that when I've gone and travelled to places like that, you just end up getting a perspective that I don't think you can get in Australia, that really does make you go, okay, I'm stressing over something, but at the end of the day, it's a bit of a first world problem. That's not to say that we shouldn't stress, because a bit of stress is actually good and it makes you do stuff, which is important. But sometimes, especially if it can be detrimental to your health, it's good to have those people around you and just that bit of perspective to go, maybe I do just need to have a weekend off or take some time away.
I want to hear about these de-stressing apps that you guys are using. I think I could probably use one of them, to be honest. Do you need to be somewhere, quiet to have them in play? Can you just use them anywhere? Can you just zone out? Kane, how does it all work?
I use a meditation app, and I've been using it for sort of 2 years now. Funnily enough, I used to meditate in some format, like when I was 15, 18, but didn't realise I was doing it. I used to turn on music, and just music that I kind of knew, and just sit underneath the fan, be it winter or summer, and just kind of sit there and just listen to music for 45 minutes or 30 minutes or however long I was at the time. So that's a form of meditation. So it can be as easy as something like that, just sitting down and listening to music that and just being in the music and just focusing on your breathing. But now I have a more structured app, which you can do in sort of 5 minutes here and there. One I use is called Calm. You can just put the headphones in your ears for 5 minutes, and that will work you through some breathing exercises, and it just brings your heart rate and stuff back to normal and things like that. So if I'm really, really stressed, I'll do that for sort of a couple of 5 minute slots a day, just to bring everything sort of back to, they say back to now, which is kind of probably a wanky term, but it does. You feel like you're kind of back to a clean slate to kind of start whatever you need to do again. So I found that really helpful over the last couple of years to kind of clear my mind.
Yeah, I use a similar one called Insight Timer, and they sort of these are all free, or this one is. They you can pick 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20-minute meditations, and a whole variety of different things. So that's really helpful, and I try and do a good 10 minutes at least in the morning, and then if I'm really stressed, similar to Kane, I'll probably try to do one through the day. 2 weeks ago, I started using an app called Productive, which does cost, I think it's $35 for the year. It's pretty cheap. You actually put in goals, like what you want to do. So for instance, tomorrow morning I have 3 things, and I have like a 2-minute cold shower most mornings to wake me up and kind of get everything going. I've been doing that for a little while. Drink 600 mils of water before I have a coffee, and do a meditation, and it sort of pushes my notifications, and you can track it like over a calendar and stuff. And then I've got tasks that are due anytime throughout the week. So that's 2 gym sessions a week, yoga once a week. Daily is practice gratitude, trying to do no beverages 4 days a week. Failing a little bit on that one, but sort of go for a run. So trying to just use something that kind of pushes a notification and tells me that I should probably do a bit better.
It's a level of accountability. If you don't have accountability to something, or somebody pushing you to be accountable to things, it's really easy to let stuff slide. And that's why people sign up to gym memberships for a whole year and don't ever use them, because there's no accountability of actually turning up. So that accountability thing of getting a prompt, okay, listen, it's time to do X, it's time to do Y, I think is really important. But it can be as easy as just jumping on a free Spotify account, putting on 2 or 3 of your favourite songs, and just shutting your eyes for that amount of time and listening to the music. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't really even have to be structured. It's just being aware that there's a time when you need to do it, and maybe it will be helpful if you do it. So it's certainly an easy thing to put into everyday practice.
So Kane, do you use yours like Ryan does in the morning, like a bit of meditation in the morning before your day starts, or is your morning a bit too crazy here? Getting ready for your day, or get the little one ready?
Yeah, if I'm really lucky, when I say really lucky, I'll wake up at around 6 a.m. naturally. So I don't really set alarms, because I always wake up before 7 anyway. I've always been an early riser. In an ideal world, I'll wake up around 6. It'll give me enough time to do some physical activity. So I'll go and jump on the treadmill, or go for a run or a walk or something outside. Come back, that'll give me 10 or 15 minutes to get changed, have a shower before the kid gets up, because I generally give him breakfast, and then the day sort of starts for everyone around 8 o'clock. After he's had breakfast and he's been cleaned up. So I'll do a lot of my meditation either around lunchtime when he's having a nap, which will be like 5 minutes if I'm doing it then, or I do a lot of it before bed just to wind down, because I do a lot of work sort of after dinner, So then to be able to just go, okay, computer's off, 5 minutes of just breathing exercise, and you tend to forget what you've just been doing. So I use it to reset, so I can pretty much go to bed and ideally sleep within sort of 10 minutes of doing that. So I find that a really good way to wind down and switch off. Otherwise, I'd be up to all hours just with things running through my brain.
It's kind of like the way that you're doing it there, you're tailoring it towards you. And I think just even with all of this, and I've spoken with a lot of people, successful people, work-wise and that kind of thing, who just turn around and say that you're not going to be perfect about any of this. And I think that's important to know, but also find something that's tailored towards you. So it could literally be, watching wrestling videos, or if I get a chance, I really actually just put on an episode of The Simpsons, and I always feel better after that. But it's just more Dragon Ball Z actually, which is a bit embarrassing.
That's as bad as wrestling.
27, but
No,
that'll be a discussion for another day. But I think that's the key thing, is just find something that works for you, make it work for you, and it's normal for everyone to have something a bit different, and it's also normal to not do that well with it. So if you do miss a session, so you also have to cut yourself some slack sometimes.
It is really important though. Like I don't do this sort of stuff every day. Some days it'll just be, I'll just sit down and do work from blah to blah. But there's days where you just need it, and you just need to recognise that you need it, and you do whatever it is which helps you. Like Ryan was saying, everyone's different. Everyone has a different thing which will trigger their stress, and everyone will have a different thing which will de-stress them. So just pick the two or three things which help you, and just realise when you need to use them. That's the most important thing. Because keeping it balled up inside, well, you'd probably go all Dragon Ball Z on someone, or drop the people's elbow on somebody.
Big time. Yep.
I think that's that's probably half my problem there. Just keeping it inside and not taking the time to sort of not zone out, I guess, but unwind and de-stress, which has been this week's topic. But I think maybe a end of day sort of routine or evaluation, I guess, of how the day went. Maybe reset to zero and go to bed on a nice clear mind and wake up fresh the next day before the chaos starts up again.
Yeah, every day's a new day, which is really important. Like, you could have a really shitty day today, but tomorrow could be an awesome day, and you don't know until you wake up a lot of the time.
Big time. The sun will rise again.
That about wraps it up for this week. Thanks for listening, and we will be back next week for another episode, or should I say serving of Daddy Eats Last. Well, how's that for a dad joke? Catch you all next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.